So we're gonna be going to several Half Price Books today. Half Price Books are probably my favorite store to shop for books at. I love kind of the challenge, almost like the treasure hunt of trying to find books. Cause I mean, when you go to like a Barnes & Noble, you kind of already know what to expect. You know what might be there, you know, the bestsellers, the new books. They kind of have everything. Half Price Books, you never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you find some great books there, sometimes you don't really find much. It's so fun. And to top it all off, they're usually significantly cheaper at Half Price Books, which is always a plus. So we're gonna go see if we can find some hidden gems today. I always come to the romance section first. I like to call books like this 80s, 90s romance, mass market paperback. You know what? I see everybody read this and I don't know if it's like the first in the series or not. Nothing that Goodreads can't tell us. You know, if you go to the camera setting, see, it pulls up the book you're looking for. So this is the second in the series, so I'm not gonna get that one. So I found these two by the same author. They're both the first in different series. This one has better ratings on Goodreads than this one, but I've seen a lot of people talk about this series as well. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get this one first just to see how I like her writing style because I've never read a book from her before. So what I was trying to say about Half Price Books typically having a lot of the same finds for cheaper, I bought this book the other day at Barnes & Noble and I just found 2 copies here in really good condition for probably either less or around the same. I bought the paperback at Barnes & Noble and this is a hardcover, so I regret that. It's funny pushing a cart in Half Price Books. I accidentally ended up, not accidentally. I definitely purposefully accidentally ended up buying way more books at the first store than I planned to. So we'll see how many I get from the next two. Maybe I'll have to kind of like reel it back in. Oh, we're halfway there. Oh, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So we're at the second Half Price Books. I bought 15 books last time, so we'll see what I do now.
Talk to me, it's what I want the most in my life. They say you're out of my league, but I don't give a damn. No, deep down, I know you want it. You wanna take a leap and jump in. You wanna fall in love. Would you get me spinning? Wouldn't it be awesome? If you just kiss me slowly and have me in your arms. If I could make you see it, baby, we'd be something.
One day I do want to read all the Game of Thrones books. I always feel so intimidated by it. I love the show. Up until the last season, I didn't really like it that much. House of the Dragon, though, was really good, and that kind of reinvigorated my love for Game of Thrones and the whole universe. So maybe. So it's the last stop of the day. We're at the final Half Price Books. Padme, the Phantom Menace. Is it just like, you said Jar Jar Binks. Oh yeah, these are the Lonesome Doves. That's pretty cool. One day I do want to read the whole Lonesome Dove series, but Anthony's dad has it, and I'm sure he'd let me borrow it. This is like a nice big Outlander copy. Mine's small. This is a Fabio, an actual Fabio book. That is so funny. I don't think I've actually ever seen one like an actual one. By Fabio. He was a writer? I didn't know that. I thought he was just the model. There's a lot of things about Fabio I don't know.
Hi, I'm Fabio. I'm so pleased you decided to spend some time with me.
Sometimes you think about all the ways promise I'm making you smile. I know I am what you need, and boy, you're just my type. Deep down, I know you want it. You wanna take a leap and jump in. Oh, we're gonna fall in love.
This one's on my TBR too, Graceling. That is kind of a cool copy, but it's just so small. Ooh, the papers though are like kind of glossy, and then it has like the gold print. That's nice. We just watched Young Frankenstein recently, so I've been thinking about Frankenstein a lot. Anthony wants me to get this one, so I'm getting this one too. Max Brooks is the same one who wrote World War Z, which I also have that book, and Anthony loves zombies. The Red Queen. I wonder if they have more. I'll like look in the other section and see if they have more of the series. If not, I'll come back and get that one for sure. This one I just found today. I found it at the other one, but I passed it up. I just saw it again. The premise seems really, really interesting, so I'm just gonna get it. This has been one on my TBR too, but so has this one. The Cruel Prince. I want to buy the whole box set though, but this is a good copy of the first one. This is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. Gorgeous, beautiful copy of Fable, even though I already read this one and like this book, but this is what the cover looks like, and it's one of my favorite book covers. My books! So I got a grand total of 30 books. Some of them are manga. I included that anyway because I think it counts. The manga though are going to be for a Little Free Library video in the future. If you haven't seen my other Little Free Library videos, go check them out because I love putting books in Little Free Libraries. So the rest of these books though are gonna be like my personal books, ones that I wanna read. They're gonna go on my shelf, probably aren't gonna all fit, but I'll figure it out. So the first one is Graceling. This has been one that has been on my TBR for a while now. It is a young adult fantasy, and it's one that I think has been around for a little while. It's pretty popular. I don't really know what it's about. Tokyo Ever After. This one is one that I wanted to get because Anthony and I want to go to Japan this year, and I wanted to get some books either by Japanese authors that take place in Japan that are just about Japan. I think it's a modern fairy tale retelling that takes place in Japan. Sounds very exciting, and I think I'm gonna wait to read this one until closer to our trip, maybe even in Japan. These Violent Delights, another popular book talk YA book. The author of this one also wrote Foul Lady Fortune. I just went with These Violent Delights because I've heard more about this one. Red Queen, I thought it was The Red Queen, okay? Red Queen, super popular series. I have not read it yet, cannot wait. Next up I have Everlist. I have never heard about this one before. I saw it in one store, thought it looked kind of interesting, and then I didn't get it. I saw it in the next store and I was like, you know what? It keeps catching my eye. I'm just gonna get it. It says, time is a prison, she is the key. That sounds cool. The Beautiful. This is by Renee Audier. Oh, I do not know how to say her name. This author wrote one of my favorite books of all time, The Wrath and the Dawn. I loved that book. I gave it 5 stars. This one is about vampires, which is very different from The Wrath and the Dawn, which was like a retelling of 1001 Nights, and it has elements of Aladdin in it as well. So it's kind of interesting to see her go from that to a vampire story. Speaking of the undead, you know, like vampires, this whole Half Price Books trip kind of turned into a weird zombie themed thing between me and my husband. I have no idea what happened, but I ended up getting 3 zombie-centric books. It started with this book, Zombies versus Unicorns. One of the authors of this one is Holly Black, who also wrote the Cruel Prince trilogy. I don't know how she did this one. The cover caught my attention. I was like, I've never seen a book like that. Then I got Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I have Pride and Prejudice. I haven't ever read a Jane Austen novel before, actually. Anthony told me about this one. I didn't even know if this was a thing, but apparently it is. And lastly, the Zombie Survival Guide. If you can't tell, my husband loves zombies, and he like forced zombies into my life. This is Complete Protection from the Living Dead. It's by Max Brooks, who's Mel Brooks' son, and I think it's literally written like a survival guide. I guess if I ever need to know about how to survive a zombie apocalypse, I'm good to go. I also got The Night Circus. This is one that has also been on my list for a while now. I read Caraval and I really liked that world. The whole idea of like a carnival setting. I really, really loved that. We Hunt the Flame. This is another young adult book. I don't really know too much about the plot, but the cover looks gorgeous. I'm just kind of a sucker for fantasy books with beautiful covers. Harry Potter! So these were more for Anthony's collection than mine. I mean, one day I do want to read all the Harry Potter books because I've actually never read them. I've only seen the movies. Anthony originally had the paperbacks, the first 3, and then he had the rest of them in hardback. And now he just wanted a cohesive collection of all hardback. So now we have, oh my gosh, they're so heavy. So now we have the entire Harry Potter collection. These are not in order. These are not in order. Nobody freak out. Oh, you know what? I have more fantasy. Fantasy is my life. The Bargainer series. I got the first 3 books in that series. They were all in such good condition, right there, right next to each other for a good price. The funny thing is, the other day I was at Half Price Books. I actually bought this book already, but it's a different cover. I don't really like books that are mixed matched in the same series. Whenever I read them, one of these is probably gonna go in a little free library at some point because I don't really feel the need to hold on to 2 copies of the same book. The Maze Runner series. I've never read these books before. The first movie actually came out when I was working at a movie theater, so I think I saw maybe like a tiny little bit in passing. A lot of people really love the series. I saw this, it was a good deal, so I thought, you know what, why not? Why not read the books and maybe watch all the movies? Next we have my 2 contemporary romances. I'm pretty sure they're contemporary romances. King of Wrath, very, very popular. I'm kind of picky with contemporary romances. There's been a few that I've liked, but more often than not, they're just okay to me. I don't really know what it is about it. I just don't think contemporary romance, like modern contemporary romance, is really like a favorite genre of mine. And then I also got this one. I have no idea what this one is about. I saw it on the shelf. It said Texas on it, and it looked like it's about, I don't know, cowboys or something. It's also 3 books in one. It's an entire trilogy, and I looked it up on Goodreads, and it had really, really great reviews, so I thought, why not? Lastly, I have 2 thrillers. This is Goodnight Beautiful, and this is what drew me in. A handsome psychotherapist, his lonely wife, and in his home office, a ceiling vent. You'd listen too, wouldn't you? I always love to find a good new thriller, and my favorites are the ones that have twists and turns that you don't expect, so hopefully this will be one of them. So this is my last one. This one is called Mind Games. This is another one that I just read the back and it just immediately drew me in. It sounded so interesting. FBI behavioral analyst Kaylee Quinn's methods might be highly unorthodox, but her talent is undeniable. Reading about somebody who's like a behavioral analyst sounded really interesting, and it kind of gave me like Silence of the Lambs vibes, you know, when she talks to him through the thing. I don't know if that's what it's about at all, but that's what my mind went to, and that sounds fun. Whatever, maybe I'll find a good thriller out of it. Half Price Books is like a treasure trove. I love finding like these kinds of books where I had no idea what they were beforehand, and then I read the back of the book and I just immediately was like, you know what? Let me try it. It makes me feel like before the age of the internet, that's probably how people picked books, you know? You either heard from a friend like, hey, that's good, or you went to the bookstore, read the back of the book and was like, you know what, I'm gonna try that one out. And also just finding ones that have been on my TBR for a very, very long time for a little bit cheaper of a price as well. That's my favorite place to buy books, and I feel like a kid in a candy store every single time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure to check out my Patreon for in-depth book reviews and polls and things like that, and I will see you next time. All right, y'all. That was weird sounding. So we're gonna be going to several half-price bookstores. That sounds wrong. The people know what half-price books are. They're everywhere. I like can't really look at the camera. Oh, bright.
Your offer's ready at the buy counter. Customer Kiowa, your offer's ready.
Oh my gosh. Anthony, don't film that. First of all, that's not even what I was pointing at. I was pointing at erotica. Second of all, don't film that. This one I have not heard about before. I saw it at not Barnes & Noble. This author wrote one of my favorite books of all time. I forgot the title. When a body is found that fits the poems. Oh, sorry.
Who are you apologizing to?
Myself.